In today's episode, I'm going to talk to you about the 5 most common areas where I find all kinds of issues with men who have businesses and are going through a divorce. I'm a winning divorce strategist, an unbiased expert witness, a hero to my clients, and a villain to their exes. Welcome to the Stay Rich Show. And this is what I look for as a forensic accountant. This is what I look for as a litigation consultant to see where the bodies are buried. I want to understand what's happening in your company, and therefore I'm going to look for any sort of anomalies or personal expenses or evidence that money is being siphoned out of the company and put somewhere else to find. The first place I always look is travel. Now, travel expenses can be business. They often are business. So if you're going to a conference and you're traveling from New York City to Miami, that is a business trip if it's just you. Now, if you go to the conference and you stay there for 2 weeks, but the conference is only 3 days, there's a significant portion of all of the expenses associated with this trip that are personal in nature. So I'm going to look at the expenses as a forensic guy. I'm going to look at the expenses for those 3 days and say, these are fine. These are business expenses. But for the personal ones, I'm going to be seeking to add these back to your income. So I'm going to say anything from the 4th day when the conference is over through to the end of your trip, this is all personal. And this is going to go back to your income. So it's going to go back to your income. It's going to increase your alimony payments. It's going to increase your child support payments. There's going to be a tax effect that's basically placed onto your income. So if you have $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 of these expenses, what the court wants to know is how much money would you need to earn as a W-2 employee in order to pay for these expenses. So rather than it be $30,000, the court wants to know, is it, say, $50,000 in salary? And that's the amount that would be added back to your income in total. So it's always something to look at. Now, with men who have businesses and families, as they would going through a divorce, if your wife is attending or if your children are attending, any sort of expenses associated to them coming are also personal expenses. So anything to do with your wife attending. So if she was coming and you booked her flight and paid for it through the business, any meals that came through the business, those are all going to get added back associated with her. And the same thing for your children too, because the business isn't really a piggy bank. And what the court is seeking to do is look to see how much money you're really making. They want to know what the cost of these things are in order to set up your ex-wife and your children with a realistic expectation of a lifestyle that's similar going forward. Something like that is often treated through travel, right? But what's next? The second one I look for is advertising and promotion, because advertising and promotion is another one of those areas that can be a slush fund. It can be sports tickets. It can be car rentals. It can be literally anything. Maybe you buy alcohol for clients. Maybe you buy expensive goods for your customers. Maybe you buy some of the stuff, but you keep it, thinking that somebody isn't going to catch on, right? So nobody's going to catch on to this. It's okay. I don't have to worry about it because who's going to know that that Mont Blanc pen is for me, right? But the choice here is I need to know that it is not for you. So I want you to tell me and show me that it's not for you. So if I'm worried about a Mont Blanc pen, I'm going to say, prove it. Prove it that you gave it to the client. Did they send you a thank you note? Because it would be awfully strange if you didn't receive a thank you note for this pen from a client that costs $1,000. It would be really weird. So show me that you actually gave it. And advertising and promotion can be tricky that way because there are some expenses where things tend to get intertwined. So if you're going to a golf tournament, that could be technically advertising and promotion. And if you're taking other clients with you, that's, again, advertising and promotion. But if you're taking friends, it's a bit blurry. Should some of these expenses be added back to your income? But maybe your friends are clients. as it often happens. So these sorts of decisions are things that forensic accountants look at. These are the things that I look at as a litigation consultant to say, how much of this is reasonable to add back to your income without causing too much of a kerfuffle? How much is reasonable to the point that you, as the man, as the entrepreneur, are going to just accept the add back and not fight it more? I'm looking for that sort of Goldilocks zone to get enough out of it without having to do much work, without needing to chase too much. And as you would guess, advertising and promotion is like that, but also meals and entertainment is like that too. Generally speaking, with meals and entertainment, a certain portion of that is always going to get added back to your income. So this is number 3. So a certain portion is always going to get added back. Some people go with 50%, right? So they just say automatically, you've had $10,000 in costs throughout the year. So I'm going to add back 50%. So that's $5,000 difference. And maybe that's right, maybe that's wrong, but it seems kind of fair. Because the assumption is that you're at the meal with your clients. You're at the meal with your customers. However, if I'm looking through the accounts and where exactly you went, this could be quite different. Because it could seem really obvious that a lot of the meals and entertainment expenses are for family. So if you have a bunch of expenses for Pizza Hut, I know you're not taking your customers to Pizza Hut. I don't even really need to ask. So I'm just going to say, this is personal, this is personal, this is personal, this is personal. Or I know if you're going to a Michelin 3-star restaurant, I'm going to guess that you're probably going with your wife. Now ex-wife. So I guess she didn't really like the meal that much. But I'm going to guess that this is a personal expense. So that's the sort of thing that I'm going to add back. Now, those dinners cost a lot of money. They're usually $500 to $1,000 per person. So that's a really quick add back to your income that is fairly obvious. Right? So I'm always going to look for these things. Now, there may be a reasonable explanation. Maybe this client likes to go to nice dinners. Maybe this client appreciates that extra touch of care. So it's a matter of proving it. So if you run into a situation like this, you got to give the person feedback and say, hey, look, I took client A to this dinner at the French Laundry. And it cost a lot of money, but this is a client relationship that I really, truly value. So it's a reasonable business expense. So number 4 on this list is automobile. And business owners love to do this. They love to expense automobiles. It's so easy. You can lease it, you can finance it, you get additional write-offs as a result of that. And rather than just buying a car outright, there's additional charges that can be deducted at 100%. But what if there's 2 cars? What if there's 3 cars? What if there's 4 cars? Because often it's not just the business owner's car, it's also his wife's. And guess what? His wife's car is going to get added back to his income. So any of the expenses to do with that cost are going to get added back. Any of the expenses to do with the personal component of driving that car. So if you're driving a $100,000 pickup truck, but you're only using it for business half the time, the other 50% of that cost is going to get added back to your income too. And that's one of the areas that I'm going to look at. So I always advise people when they start looking at going through this system to start tracking mileage. Get a sense of where you're at in terms of business driving versus personal driving. And to the extent that you can, limit your driving to business, at least in the business car. If you have a personal car, I don't care. That's going to get paid for personally. It doesn't factor into the equation. But if you're using your business car as a personal shuttle, you may run into a problem because effectively you're going to be doubling the amount of cost associated with it because you've got the add back of the personal component and then you have to tax affect that. And number 5 is salaries and wages. Salaries and wages, and specifically subcontracting costs, are a huge area where guys going through divorce suddenly start adding shit. Right? So suddenly their wife comes to them, gives them the divorce papers, and they go, oh no, I make a lot of money. What am I going to do? How do I get rid of this money so I don't have to pay as much towards alimony and child support, because this is what happens with guys. They get served papers, they have no clue that it's coming, and then they panic. And panic is what sets off a lot of these problems for men, because it's so obvious. You have a date that I know you were served with divorce papers on July 1st. And then suddenly a lot of different things start happening with your business on July 2nd or July 3rd, where you're adding subcontractors, where suddenly people that you're related to are being added to payroll, but they were never working there in the first place. Or if they were, they weren't actually getting paid for it because the value of their contribution was really limited. But now they're making $80,000 a year. Right? So I look at this and I go, are you effing kidding me? Do you think I'm that stupid? Do you think I'm not going to see this? Right? Because every single time I go through this, it becomes very obvious. And I don't know if you realize this, because a lot of men think that they're smart. They think that they're going to play the game. They think that it's rigged against them. And they say to themselves, how can I get rid of all this income and screw my ex-wife? But she's playing the game too. She's not giving you goodwill. This is why you're going through a divorce in the first place. So when I'm looking at these accounts and flagging things, you know who does a really detailed job of this? Your ex-wife. Because she's going to go through line by line. She has all this time, all this anger, all this motivation to catch you because she doesn't trust you. You've broken that trust already, and she's angry. So every night, she's going to pour a glass or two or three of wine and go through every single line item in your finances. And if you don't think that the name of your second cousin twice removed, or the name of your best man at your wedding, or somebody that you're loosely associated that she's heard of, isn't going to ping a red flag with her, I guarantee you, you are nuts, because she is 100% going to pick up on this. Every time I'm hired by ex-wives, and especially the types who really want to chase money, and especially the types who really want to get you, they are doing a deep forensic dive into every single line item. I'm getting spreadsheets, I'm getting charts, it's being annotated, it's being color-coded. There's numbers and letters assigned. There's questions outstanding. And often what I'm doing is trying to knock them down and saying, hey, we don't need to chase after this and this and this because it's going to cost too much money to do that. But sometimes it's worth it. And sometimes they see the stuff that as a forensic, I may not see it because there's been no real history for me. I'm coming into it blind. But she has all the detail. So this is like the last place where you want to start adding things at the time of divorce, or at the time that you're served with divorce, is because she knows to look here. She knows what's going on. And so many men don't realize this. They think that they've kept their wife in the dark. They think that she doesn't understand the business. And even the ones that don't understand accounting, don't understand business, won't be able to tell you the difference between revenue and profit. These women know where to look. They know because they go through every single line. They're looking for everything. That story that you told 5 years ago about Bob Boop Boop is going to come up in her recollection. That trip that you took to the Cayman Islands, I swear to God, I've had this. I had a client, and she was dead set that this man was hiding a shit ton of money in the Cayman Islands, and said that there's a bank account there, there's a company there, there's known associates of his there. I'm like, okay, so how do you know? What can you give me to prove it? Or give me something to go by? Because that's important. I need a thread to pull. She goes, well, I don't know. I don't really have anything. Okay, so why are you telling me this story? What's the story with the Cayman Islands? Why do you think that there's money there? She goes, well, we once went on vacation there, and this was 15 years ago. And we were 35 at the time. We had young kids. And one of the afternoons, John disappeared for like 4 or 5 hours. I couldn't reach him. And he didn't really explain where he went. He just said he was like, he went to the casino or he went to the pool. But I don't really remember seeing him at the pool. Me and the kids were at the beach. He wasn't around. And John never really told me what he did during that time. So I'm sure, because he disappeared for a few hours, that he has a company, a bank account, and known associates in the Cayman Islands. Oh, so this is based on a 15-year-old recollection of a time when your husband disappeared for like 4 hours or 5 hours one afternoon on a family vacation. Like maybe he went in a boat, maybe he went and did something else. I have no idea, but this isn't really enough information to go on. And I said to her, I said, look, the problem is that I don't see any evidence that money's being siphoned off. And I'm going through years upon years upon years of finances. I'm not seeing any transactions to the Cayman Islands. I'm not really seeing any changes in who's coming in as a consultant, because it's a really common way that people siphon off money. And I'm not seeing changes in vendor lists. I'm not seeing changes in who he's buying stuff from. It all looks relatively similar. So if he did set up a bank account in the Cayman Islands, maybe there's some money there, but there's certainly no evidence of this sort of conspiracy to evade taxes or evade this money being found over a long stretch of time. So it's not like there's going to be $1 million or $2 million or $5 million sitting there, unless I'm missing a really significant piece of this puzzle. So unless I'm missing a company altogether, but to our knowledge, there's only one company. So unless I'm missing something beyond that, we got nothing here. So I don't want to spend that much more time chasing ghosts. Right? So again, those are the 5 top areas that I look right when I get a divorce engagement coming from the woman's side, who wants to know what's happening with the money, wants to know what's happening with the profit of the business, and looking for ways to determine how much you earn, because it's the important part for her. She wants the money to come through in a fair amount that's representative of your real income. Here are the 5 issues again: travel, meals and entertainment, advertising, vehicle expenses, and wages and salaries. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When you're watching this video and you comment money in the comment section, I do have a free resource here that's just like a quick guide on some of the areas that I look for in a forensic investigation when I'm operating forensically, when I'm looking through and doing a deep dive of all your finances. These are the different areas I'm looking for and why. And I think you'll find that really helpful, especially if you're going through a divorce or planning to go through a divorce, to help you navigate the system a little bit better so you understand what's going to happen. Thank you. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you on the next show.